Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video, we're going to focus on giving you the best settings in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. These haven't changed a ton over the past few months, but I have several more subscribers than I did the last time I did one of these videos. If you find this video helpful or enjoyed it anyway, please remember to hit the like button. If you're brand new around here, feel free to hit that red subscribe button. With that, let's go ahead and get into the settings. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at is your options, right? So we're going to start off with controls, and we're going to be able to go through the different tabs. Pretty much the main point of this is to kind of maybe highlight some things that maybe you didn't notice the first time around, because there are certain settings that some people just never touch. One, because they don't really know what it does, and other times maybe they just like things the way they are. But I give you an opportunity to maybe switch things up. So I use the standard looking version. I know there's some people who use inverted. It kind of feels like you're flying an airplane or something like that. I am not a fan of that. I've always done first person shooters in standard. And then you got to find the right sensitivity. I did a full video on how I've actually done probably about 3 or 4 of those, how to find the right sensitivity for you. Personally, for me, it's a 6. Sometimes I can go to a 7, sometimes I can go to a 5, but the 6 is the optimal sensitivity in Black Ops 4 for me. ADS sensitivity, I dropped it down 1, and that was with that change that they added this specific setting. Prior to this, I was a 5.5 sensitivity, and we didn't have an ADS sensitivity, so now I've been able to change it up, raise my sensitivity up just a little bit, and still have that ADS sensitivity. High zoom sensitivity, I don't really play with this one because I don't really use snipers. If I were to use snipers, I'd play a little bit more with that one. I think my zoom sensitivity is more like a 1.5, 1.25, but I almost never touch snipers, so I don't really touch that one. Target assist, I know there's some people of the mindset you should turn this off, because sometimes when people jump in front of your screen, it drags your aim assist or whatever the case is. This one should be left on at all times. If you decide to turn it off, you're going to be losing way more gunfights. Obviously, there's the anomaly where people do feel comfortable using this with target assist off, and obviously people who on PC don't have any aim assist or target assist, so this one's always off. But in the case of console gaming, since we do not have the best control with the right analog, since it's only a joystick, not very much control there, target assist on is the way to go. Aim assist is when you aim down sights. Does not affect multiplayer. This is specifically for zombies. Controller vibration. This one, sometimes people will debate. My personal preference is to have this off. Any type of shaking when you're in a gunfight is only there to distract you. Some people feels like the immersion. I don't care about immersion when I'm trying to win a gunfight. I care about winning that gunfight. And I do not think vibration helps in that scenario. Cancel sprint, cancels reload. I have that off. I will cancel my own reload, and that's with YY, triangle, triangle. And I will have the option to do that. I don't want it to cancel every time I sprint, so I end up reloading, and then the second I sprint it cancels. Have that off. Auto mantle off. This one can actually get you killed. They had it set to default to on, I believe. And with it on, what will happen is sometimes you'll just jump and move, and you'll automatically start mantling, which will cause you to kind of reposition yourself in a way that maybe you're not expecting. So this way, by having auto mantle off, is you only mantle when you want to mantle. Auto sprint, have it off. When enabled, double clicking the sprint button will make it so you automatically sprint. I don't really play with that one too much. I hold the direction, I press L3 when I want to go ahead and sprint, and then I sprint around the map. Joystick layout. With the joystick layout, what you're going to see is there's a few different ones, but for the most part, I just keep this one default. This one, you should primarily keep it default. Unless you become accustomed to another way, default is the way to go on this one. Button layout. Here's where it really depends. For me personally, I have a controller with 2 paddles, 1 and 2. One's to jump, one's to slide. Before I had a controller with paddles, i.e. a Scuff, Battle Beaver, Astro A40, and whatever other controllers are out there that allow you to have paddled buttons on the back, I use stick and move or bumper jumper. Primarily stick and move because bumper jumper hurt my knuckle like hell. Jumping with the left trigger, that wasn't something I was comfortable doing. So what I've done is with these controllers, I use default. But if I didn't have if I had a default controller, I would probably try tactical, or I would do, where's it at? Bumper jumper, tactical, or stick and move. Those are the options I'd recommend trying out. And what stick and move does is your R3, bumper jumper is a good way to go, because when you spam this left trigger, you're going to jump. Obviously, if we get into the next setting, maybe L1 or whatever the case is, or left bumper. But what happens is when you actually have this set up, you'll jump, and then you can aim down sight, and you know, you kind of have a little bit of variety. So that's kind of how you would switch it up. But it all depends on your preferences. My preference would be stick and move, so I can press the analog, my R3, and then that'll jump and I'll still have my thumb on the right analog. Or do it in a way where it's tactical, where you switch this to crouch and prone. Tactical is a good way to go because then you can jump, or not jump, slide, crouch, and do other stuff with your R3 without keeping it off. So you can slide and still be able to control your right analog stick. So that's a good way to go. So we are on the road to 100,000 subscribers. You can see right here we have 92,489 subscribers. You guys can help me out. Hit that number. Obviously, you guys are enjoying the video if you made it to this point. Appreciate the support. Thank you, guys. Let's get back to the video. And then right here, I have mine set to default because I jump and slide with my back buttons. So I don't really need, I use R3 for melee. And then right here, you got default or flipped. With the controller, the way that it actually has these buttons on the back right here. You can see these little switches. These are kind of like what they call trigger stops. They're little things you can add on to your controller as well, which make it so that when I press the button here, it doesn't have a ton of give. Compared to when it doesn't on, it has a lot more give. This one, the trigger stops could be a little bit better, but overall they are pretty decent, especially when you have a semi-auto weapon. What you notice is when you have this flipped, you can actually use your R1 to shoot and your L1 to ADS. And you'll notice it's a lot easier with those semi-auto weapons. Automatic weapons you don't notice quite as much, but if you're going to use the Auger DMR, Swordfish, or any of the other, like the Stingray or whatever the case is, R1 is a little bit more efficient. RB for Xbox users as far as spamming that button so you can make sure that you hit your shots. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back to default. Graphics here, I normally have this set to 80%. If I play on the Hacienda Night, I will bump this up to 100%. Just when the map's going on. Again, this is with immersion. If you feel like this is too much, it's going to be easier to see people by having it at 80. But if you just want the gameplay experience, obviously keeping it at 50 or whatever it starts at is perfectly fine. But having it at 80 allows you to see people, especially on some of those darker areas of the map. I'm not colorblind, so I have this one off. Some people do this just because they like the different colors. If you're not colorblind at all, you can actually play with those yourself and kind of maybe mix it up if you don't necessarily like red and blue. Just depends. Player indicator icon. This one, I've switched it to abbreviated just to make it a little bit easier, because sometimes your teammates will jump in front of you or enemies will block other enemies, and it makes it a little bit harder to see. You could even go to the farther extent of actually making it icons only. It'll look a little funny at first because you won't see any names. All you see is the icon and their actual, as far as health goes. But I like abbreviated. Full name is what I had when I started, but it just kind of blocks too much, especially for those people that have really long names, and it makes it a little bit more distracting than anything. Abbreviate's a good way to go. Icon only is another good way if you are comfortable with that. But personally, I go with abbreviated. Split screen is really not an issue, but I play horizontal if I were. Safe area is a huge setting. A lot of times people don't really realize. Click on this and it'll give you description on how you need to adjust this. Sometimes people don't understand exactly what I'm saying with this particular setting, so they don't understand what they need to do. So what you're going to do is make this safe area as small as possible. For Xbox, it might be slightly different, but for PlayStation, to adjust this, go to the safe area within your settings. What you're going to notice is sound and screen, display area. You're going to make this as small as possible. It could be annoying if you're playing other games, it'll kind of shrink it up, but this one only affects the HUD. So that's your mini map, like all the different stuff that pops up on the screen, your ammo, which gun you're using, your streaks. It kind of gets tightened up a little bit. It makes it closer to the center of the screen, which makes it easier for you to focus on the job at hand, which is gunfights. So definitely experiment with that. 9 times out of 10, people in the comment section say, man, that was really helpful, especially if you play on a TV. This is even more impactful. If you play on a monitor, not really a big deal. Everything's already kind of tight together as it is. But with a TV, some people are talking about playing on 70-inch TVs. It's like your mini-map's all the way over there. Your HUD is like all stretched out and your crosshairs are in the middle. And if you're looking at the mini-map back and forth 90% of the game, it's too much screen for your eyes to handle. So that's how that setting works. Audio, I have master volume to 10 so I can have it loud. Obviously, on my headset, I can amp up the volume if I wanted, but I don't need to overdo it if my setting's up to 10. And then Super Crunch is the audio preset that's been recommended since Black Ops 2 for Treyarch games. is the super crunch setting. This is supposed to allow you to hear footsteps a little bit easier, even though they're not tremendously loud in the game compared to when you hear your own, which are pretty loud. Super crunch is the audio way to go. You can go subtitles. This one's kind of on and off. Some people find them distracting. A lot of times in the beginning, you can have them on because you can actually hear special. Even if you couldn't hear the specialist, the game would recognize that there was a specialist pulling off some kind of special. So what you would be able to do is, okay, Outriders using their specialist, I'm going to avoid that area. Or Ajax is using their specialist, I'm going to avoid that area. Oh, they have a 9-bang ready, I'm going to stay away from that guy. So that gave you the flexibility to kind of just stay away from that. If you have that on, you will see them pop up on the screen. It can be a little bit annoying at times if you happen too many times, but it does give you a lot of descriptive information that you can't actually hear unless you just dialed up your settings to 100 across the board. So that one I've been playing with it off, but it is a good option, especially if you don't really have great audio. You're not listening through a headset. You're not listening through earbuds. You're just listening through the screen audio. This is a good way to go because it at least give you an idea. Okay, there's somebody who has an Ajax 9-bang ready. Voice volume, I have this one a little bit lower. This one is just in-game volume. You can hear the voices. That ties in with the subtitles. Obviously, if you have the subtitles off, you might want this a little bit higher, but typically I set this at a 7. Music volume, I don't really care about the music. Sometimes I'll listen to people's gameplay when I do gameplay review, and they have this thing at 10, and it's like, I've never even heard that music before. So I kind of have it lower. You can go lower to 0 if you want, but I do include a little bit just because it's kind of part of the gameplay. If I didn't do any kind of YouTube, I would just put it to 0. Team chat volume, since sometimes I'll record other people's gameplay as far as the audio goes, I want this as loud as possible when I'm recording that audio. Sound effects audio, I want it loud. Cinematic volume, loud. That's explosions, all that kind of stuff going on around the map. That does help with immersion, but these are the settings I would use. Multiplayer dialogue, I want that on because that goes down to the call to see if it's disabled. It'll mute the dialogue of spoken by a multiplayer specialist. Does not affect call outs for gameplay, 9-bang ready or whatever the case is. This ties into that. Controller sound off, more annoying than anything. You could leave it on, be like UAV ready or whatever the case is, but I have that off. Network, you want to make sure you have an open NAT type. That's typically something that you can do with your router or your internet provider. If you're not sure how to get that open, you can actually call your internet provider and they'll walk you through the steps. If what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, it will actually make it open, and this will allow you to connect to more players. If you have it strict, it's only people within your local area, and if people don't always have good internet, good connection, you're going to end up with some issues. Muting. Mute all except party. I have it currently off because if I want to record some reactions or something like that, I have it off. On, that'll make it so I can't hear any other people's voice chat within game. Content filter, graphic content, I have on. I don't really have an issue with graphic content. Zombie cartoon mode, you typically want this on if you're going to do your challenges because the zombie mode tends to crash a lot less when you have it on. If you have it off, just because you want that realism of zombies, you can go with that mode with off, but expect to have a little bit more crashes. User generated content, I currently have it on, but sometimes if I'm recording, I will have it off. So if someone puts a swastika on the screen, I will be able to block it out or say something derogatory or whatever the case is, it can block it off by using that setting. And that's pretty much how the settings work in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. If you found the video helpful in any way, please remember to hit that like button. And if you're brand new to the channel and you'd like to find your way back, please remember to hit that red subscribe button with notifications on. See you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.